Welcome back to another episode of the Engaged Parish Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to discuss a new platform called Catholic Go that aims to inspire people to discover the beauty of Catholicism right in their own backyard. The Catholic Church is filled with incredible stories, sacred sites, and a rich heritage that surrounds us, even here in the U.S., sometimes quite literally around the corner. And yet, so many people have no idea that these places exist. You may even be part of a parish or shrine that has an incredible history and always wonder why more people don't visit. That's where today's guests come in. We're excited to welcome Christian and Darcie Nielson, founders of Catholic Go, which is a growing platform designed to help Catholics rediscover the beauty, history, and holiness woven into the landscape around them. Their mission is simple but powerful: to inspire an adventure of faith and build community on the journey. From historic cathedrals and miraculous shrines to quiet retreat centers, Catholic Go is making it easier than ever for people to explore, learn, pray, and connect. So today we're going to learn how this project came to be, how parishes might use it to deepen engagement in their own communities, and where Catholic Go is headed next. Christian and Darcie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we're happy to be here.
So let's start at the beginning. What sparked the idea for Catholic Go, and what is Catholic Go all about?
Yeah. Well, throughout our marriage, especially when we first met and we grew in our faith together, we would find special places to visit near us. We were up in New England, lived outside of Boston, and Darcy in particular would find shrines, graves, special Catholic places that just kind of illuminated our faith and spiritual journey. And eventually, 12 years later, thought that this is something we want to share with others.
Right. So in the spring, Christian said, Darcy, I think it's really time that we do something with this. And I said, Christian, you're working full time. We have 4 children. I said, I was working too. I said, or part time. And I said, listen, this is all right. Let's make a deal. I said, if you can get this like something that I can sink my teeth into, more than just an idea, if you can get it ready, we'll do it. And I said, let's go, let's put a deadline on like the end of August, right? And so all summer Christian was scheming and putting kind of like a rough draft together of our website, our current website today. And then God's providence, my brother had just left a job and he could actually then build it out further, the whole back end piece. And so he did that. And then lo and behold, we were launching on September 15th and we're just going.
Yeah, when I first heard about this project, I absolutely fell in love. I remember the first call that we had, my mind was already going to, "Oh, have you guys heard about, this shrine or this place?" And so it really resonated with me. And, also this concept of, we always think that pilgrimages have to be somewhere far off, which usually means expensive and something we can't do all the time. But pilgrimages can literally happen in our own backyard. And that's really what I love about Catholic Go. You guys are shining light on some of these unique places that we have, even right here in the US. So you kind of just laid it out, but before you started Catholic Go, did you imagine yourselves launching something that blends tech, travel, ministry, and evangelization?
I don't think to that full extent, but I will say that early on in our marriage, we would gather couples together and just host these nights and just talk about how can we help the faith grow here? Like how can we and we would just brainstorm and we always have, I think like if God had given us and he might have like a charism in our marriage, like I think there was that was there. That's just been there from the beginning of our marriage. This like love for kind of this like entrepreneurial spirit, this right, even this travel curiosity, spreading the faith and I think really JP2's inspiration has always been there too. So in a way, I think we're surprised and we're not. We're surprised of what it looks like, now with Catholic Go and kind of all the parts to it. But in a way, and I think in our hearts, we're like, oh, this is actually just like a deep calling that we've had for a really long time.
And before we get too far down the conversation, I want to let people know they can visit catholicgo.com right now and check it out. The website's really cool. It's got an interactive map, a little bit more about each site. Can you tell us what people can expect on the platform? Also, I noticed there's a way to create an account. Can you tell us what that unlocks right now?
Yeah, so that's just the basic pilgrimage account, so you can create it. It's just your email to sign up, so it's very, very low entry, and there you can then go back to, like, the map under your account, and you can, mark places that you want to visit or places you have visited. And then you can also leave these testimonials, and I think those are just on the screen too. So you kind of can start to build out your own what's your pilgrimage life like in the US, your profile.
And I mentioned your mission during the introduction to inspire an adventure of faith and build community on the journey. Can you tell us a little bit more about this mission for Catholic Go?
Yeah, it's rediscovering the curiosity about our faith and the rich history here in the U.S. Even in the U.S. that we're used to our parishes and those are our base of faith, but inspiring people that there are lots of elements of our faith that are represented by the different charisms of the orders, especially that run or manage these retreat centers or shrines or basilicas. That whether it's Franciscan or Dominican or what have you, that there are different elements of our faith to discover through going out and venturing and learning about these orders and the blesseds or the saints that came from them and why they're that way and we all know that being someplace and experiencing it in person and seeing it and touching it is a part of how we grow and absorb even our faith along with any other thing um and many of us who have been on pilgrimage, especially overseas or multi-day anywhere, it's that community that's built as well, over the dinner table, talking about what you discovered or why you came on this trip is a key part of the trip itself are the connections that you make.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember there's a pilgrimage my wife and I went on a couple years ago. Actually, just last week, there was a couple of seminarians that went on that trip. It was a 10-day trip, 10-day pilgrimage, I should say. And just last week, I saw a couple of those seminarians, and we just picked up the conversation as if no time had really passed, and 2 years had passed, and I only knew them for those 10 days. So you're absolutely right. Even over a relatively short period of time, these connections can form and sometimes those can last lifetimes. I have friends and family members who have had lifelong friends, and they met those people on pilgrimage. So I'm really
Mhm.
glad that you brought up that point. Um, so you also mentioned, big grand trips. That's usually what we think about with pilgrimages: Rome,
Right.
Lourdes, Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Um, but we can also take pilgrimages just in our own local area. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how, obviously Catholic Go is looking to further that idea?
Yeah, I think we're really inspired by Saint Therese and, her little way and that same sort of thing of just we can still make these micro that's what we're calling them, these micro pilgrimages, that are day trips, half a day, and just trust that the graces there's still grace in that, right? There's a grace in going and seeking God, and deepening our relationship with Him, and so it's, I think Saint Therese is very and it's funny because that's actually one of the first shrines that really kind of inspired all of this was the Saint Therese shrine in Burrville, Rhode Island, which was the first one dedicated to her in the whole entire world when she was just beatified. And we would go there and we'd say, "How do people not know about this?" Right? And so but it was these day trips, it was, going to meet some extended family for lunch and then seeing like, "Okay, what else is around there?" And kind of making pilgrimage part of our family life.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And actually, that shrine that you mentioned, I've been to before. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking when I visited it, I mean, you guys know because you've been there. It's just in this little town in northwestern Rhode Island, and you're just like, how does no? It's got such a cool history. How does no one know about this? It involves like a miraculous healing, and as you said, one of the first shrines dedicated in the world to Saint Therese after she was beatified. And so maybe this leads into my next question. Why do you think so many Catholics today are unaware of these like
Yeah.
important, almost historical sacred sites that are like 10 minutes from where they live?
Right, right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to begin with, I think once upon a time, I picture like the 1950s or mid 20th century generally that, our life of faith was kind of infused by both our parish as a foundation, but also by Catholic schools, religious orders, different missions, hospitals. Like the Catholic faith, you'd encounter it in everyday life throughout your town, throughout your region. And unfortunately, over time, a lot of those hospitals have become secular, schools have closed, orders have contracted,
Right.
and gone other places. And so now the parish is an important foundation, but a lot that's kind of what people's lives center around.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
And I don't know, and we kind of wonder too if it's also because it just like culturally we tend to like, I don't know, go to God, because pilgrimage also, you can go for many reasons, right? But I'd say kind of the reasons that might have like push people mostly is looking for some sort of healing or miracle. So you might be in a place of just of seeking, right, a chance to also just wanting to grow in that relationship with God, but also if there's almost like we've tried everything else, we'll try this pilgrimage, right? And I just wonder if it's that has kind of seeped in instead of being like, let's start with God, like let's just go first to Him, let's go seek Him in these places and His grace.
I want to talk a little bit more about the platform itself. What kinds of locations can people expect to find on Catholic Go? And are you guys adding more locations?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. We keep getting submissions of new locations to add it, and we actually can't keep up with it right now because
It's a good
thanks
problem
for
to have.
us. It's a really good problem to have. So it's growing. We're trying to, as we can, every week we are adding some as as they come in and we can verify and connect with them.
Mhm.
But yeah, the location or the categories we have, we obviously have the big things like basilicas, cathedrals, shrines. We kind of had a little fun with including like coffee shops. It's interesting. Some of these monasteries actually have like coffee shops attached to them. So we actually have to look into kind of making our categories almost adding two or three per place because they can feature multiple categories in one
Mhm.
location.
Yeah, and how do you kind of go about curating this? You mentioned there's so many submissions you guys can't even keep up with them.
Right.
But yeah, how do you go about not only curating them but looking at the historical significance of them, looking at the spiritual significance for each location? Is that something you're kind of relying on crowdsourcing to provide, or are you guys doing your own research here?
Crowdsourcing, but also just our own research. There was a great YouTube video, and I can't remember I think it was called The Catholic Show, and these gentlemen were going through like 25 places to visit in the US. And we had all those, it was great, but what I discovered that in the comments, people said, "Well, you missed this little place here in Arkansas, and you missed this place here and here." So I just went through the comments, and I was like, "This they did it." Like, I was like and they're all asking, they're like, "Well, I wish there was a place that just website that had all of these." I'm like, "That's what we're doing." So it was really fun, in our research to kinda come across these ones, like this servant of God, Rhoda Wise, Mother Angelica visited her when she was a teenager and had a miraculous healing. And so her case is open. It's just you kind of read these connections and things and then you research it and you're like, yeah, this is real.
Or for we, I was just going to use the example because we're reaching out to the shrines individually to build a relationship with them and enhance the information that we have to serve their mission. And in certain cases, it will have a shrine that's run by an order. And while we're on the phone, they say, "Well, we have these two or three other sites.
Okay.
Could you please include them, whether it's a retreat center or what have you, that we can then tie in as well." So that's one of the ways that we're growing the site beside submissions.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I just absolutely love the idea. Now that you guys have built it, it's one of those things where you just take a step back and you're like, how has no one created this yet? So I'm so glad you guys are doing that. We obviously have a lot of parishes that listen to the Engaged Parish podcast, lots of different shrines or even small places, as you mentioned, that use the e-Catholic platform. And so if those people are out there and they're having that same thought that you saw in those comments on the YouTube video of, oh my goodness, if people just knew about this, insert shrine or church or whatever, what's the best place they can go to submit that, to provide you guys with the information and the context, and get it on Catholic Go?
Yeah, through our website, we have a basic contact form, and that's the easiest way, because then that, or if they are just, like, ready and they're like, here are photos, here's this, here's that," then they can just email us hello@catholicgo.com, and we'll gather all the info there.
Excellent. And I'm guessing the more, the better in some cases. I mean, obviously,
It is.
there's only so much. Yeah, yeah.
Plus, it's okay.
Good, good. Because then you guys, yeah, can kind of pick and choose what you think is good to kind of highlight on the listing.
Yeah.
Um, awesome. So hello@catholicgo.com. And then we have the page up here as well. Brandon, if you can pull that URL up, I'll mention that as well for the submissions. catholicgo.com, and I'm guessing there's probably just a link there to go ahead and submit that. I noticed too, we talked about creating accounts on the platform. You're collecting reviews and testimonials. I even noticed that if you can't physically attend, you can say a prayer and mark off that you said the prayer. That's sort of significant to that site. Can you talk a little bit more about the crowdsourcing side of Catholic Go and how you're hoping, even in this digital space, to create community?
Yeah, I mean, we know, unfortunately, from COVID how important just streamed mass was, especially for the elderly, and we know from being in Boston how much people depend on Catholic TV there, that brings the faith to their home when they can't get out. And so if you can't travel to one of these sites, we want to make it so that you can still, travel where you are spiritually. Like Saint Therese, right, is the patron of missionaries from her little convent. But the power of your prayer can unite you with people who are in those places. And we all know the power of that connection is very real, and so you then have a personal connection. God willing, someday you can go there, um, and until then, you can just see how many people are traveling, and hopefully, this traffic increases activity and increases the visibility of these shrines and helps them as well.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that's why I love the concept of Catholic Go so much, because it's very much in line with what we try to do at eCatholic, which is kind of bridge the digital realm and the physical realm, because we know our faith is physical. We need to physically be there to receive our Lord, or we receive Him physically. Mass, of course, unless if you can't go to it, as was the case with COVID and those who are elderly, you need to go to church to worship on at least Sundays. And so I think I just love this, you guys' mission of using the digital world to connect Catholics, because that's where people are these days, is the digital world, back to the physical. And it very much resonates with our mission. So once again, I think it's just, I'm really excited about where this could go. And on that note, I know you guys just launched not too long ago, but have you had any fun stories or testimonials or examples that have come in yet?
So we've had a couple. It's mostly been people that are already going on a trip, a planned trip, and then they will write in and say, "Thanks to your website, I'm now visiting, this shrine and this because it's in the, vicinity of where I'm going," and just like a big thank you. Those have kind of been I'd say the majority of our testimonials coming in right now. And it's interesting too, like, even friends now are just, um, texting pictures and saying, "Oh, we just went here this weekend. Go ahead, you can use our content and create a post about this shrine." So it's really fun. It's really fun to see it develop and unfold.
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm sure many more stories are going to come through in the next few years as you guys
Yeah.
continue to build and expand.
Yeah.
Um, so going back to parishes, we talked about how they can submit sites or locations that they think would be perfect for the Catholic Go platform. Do you guys have any thoughts on how parishes might integrate Catholic Go into their own efforts or ministries?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes that nearby trip a little bit more accessible. Hopefully, seeing these places on a map nearby just helps them to decide where they might want to go on a day trip and bring a group together. Um,
Yeah, we were inspired too, at the parish we were at in, the Boston area. The deacon and his wife, every Good Friday, they would just invite whoever wanted to come to meet at a shrine about 45 minutes away and walk the outdoor Stations of the Cross, and it was
Mhm.
beautiful because it was, just very kid-friendly. When you've got little kids, they can they can walk on in the nature path, and it's beautiful, and then they would usually bring, like, bread, and we would just, because we were fasting, right? And so, um, that's always kind of stuck in our mind too of like, "Oh, parishes could use this because then they can do it around" excuse me, if there are, obviously holy days are great times to do it, but even if there's just, a little lull, to maybe plan a day trip around, to a local shrine or place.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure too, just like has been the case with me, I'm sure there's priests out there that maybe not don't know the full scope of what's around them. I mean, I guess if you're a priest, you can be so focused on your parish. So I'm sure that linking to Catholic Go or linking to some, maybe interesting sites that a priest has found in sort of the
Mhm.
wider local area could be helpful to help further the faith life of the people that he serves. Um, how do you guys hope that Catholic Go will impact people's faith?
Oh, that's such a big, beautiful question.
Mhm.
I think, even making these micro pilgrimages, it's such the reminder that, like Saint Therese says, like, "The earth is our ship, not thy home." And so it's that constant reminder to just keep putting God first in our lives and this detachment. It's that level because when you even go on the local pilgrimage, you're not bringing all your stuff, like, you can't, right? So you're free to just really show up as you are, who you are, because
Mhm.
you can't really hide. You don't have anything to hide behind. So
Mhm.
I think there's a wanting that, like a just I think a deeper conversion. I don't know what
Yeah,
so
no, I think you touched on it earlier when you spoke about, y- y- when we think of Lourdes, if somebody's really sick, we need to get them to Lourdes or Fatima and God willing, a healing. But we all have little sufferings each day throughout our lives, whether small or large. And by making these things local and accessible, that just take that step, I think sometimes we're even embarrassed, if we're going through something personally. We don't want to tell somebody, well, I'm going on a pilgrimage because I need to heal in this way, but rather you can just stop by this place nearby and spend a few minutes in silence and learn a little bit about that order or that saint or that blessed that came from there. Um, because I think to your point about priests, being focused on their parishes, understandably so, we can also kind of gloss over what's nearby in the sense like we might know there's a retreat center or a shrine nearby and we've always known it was there, but we never really knew too much about it. Never, for one reason or another, didn't go there. And then when we stop to read about why it's there, how it was started, like, oh, that really speaks to something I'm going through, and now, you know, I have a great reason and resource for what it is that I'm challenged with, or I can share it with others.
yeah. We also hope too, I think that by increasing pilgrims to these sites, that then these shrines and these places are then blessed, whether financially or just the visits just to show like, oh, there's still an interest here, and that always encourages the people that work there, live there, right? So I
Mhm.
think it's kind of this like twofold blessing for the pilgrims and then the places.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because it is so true. I think about a pig shrine. I can't even imagine how much it costs to preserve it, to keep it going, to just keep the lights on, and never mind, when you're in these older buildings, these historic buildings, even more so the cost goes up. So I really am glad you mentioned that because there is spiritual benefit, but these physical locations need upkeep. And so I love that idea. More pilgrimages should mean more, things bought at the gift shop there, or hopefully more free will donations coming through. And yeah, hopefully it will preserve these locations for generations to come. So I love that idea. And also I loved how you mentioned how you kind of hinted at the curiosity about, maybe an old church or a retreat center that you always drive by, but you never really explored. That curiosity could really be an invitation from our Lord to maybe, just take 10 minutes out of your day to um, talk to God about, kind of what you're going through. So once again, I just love how you guys are focusing on how this can be done at the local level. Because as I said earlier, I feel like so often we think pilgrimages need to be this big, grand, and therefore expensive trip,
Yeah.
but it doesn't need to be that way. We can even go to our own local parish and go before the tabernacle or the Blessed Sacrament, and that in and of itself can be a pilgrimage.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a great point, right? Like, why, if it is a blessed or a saint or an order, why did they build what they built? They built it in love for Jesus, in the Eucharist in particular. So, it can be a push and pull, to and from the parish. And again, it really illuminates the faith altogether.
I also think let me know what you guys think about this, but I also think our culture might be at kind of a turning point where, especially coming out of COVID, people are just people sort of crave that physicality a little bit again. I
Mhm.
think we're seeing it with younger generations, and
Yes.
they almost want to go back to their roots and to tradition. Um, and maybe just talk about that. Do you think that um, these kind of pilgrimages are just sort of rediscovering the local Catholic history of an area, could be an evangelization tool as we move forward?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been blessed since we launched this in my travels for work, visited a few of these sites, and it's amazing to discover how integrated they are into the history of our country. I visited a shrine in New Orleans, and I think it was Alexander Hamilton. Uh, I could be completely wrong. Went into that shrine and asked the nuns to pray for the Battle of New Orleans, which we were totally outnumbered. Point being is that historical draw as well, um, could just introduce people to that shrine, to the Eucharist, and help them grow in their faith, whether they're just getting back into the faith, not Catholic at all, or going deeper. They're already at a deeper level.
Yeah.
Um,
And I think, Christian always jokes around too because, we are, like you said, like we're bridging using technology to, to get people to these physical locations. And Christian says, like when we have the app, like there's going to be a point where it's like, okay, now you've reached this shrine, like hang up and hang out, like hang up and be present. Well, this is, this is why you're here, So that's kind of, I think you're right too. I think these younger generations are looking for opportunities where it's like no phones, right? Like just let's be present. And I think what's also beautiful is a lot of these places have outdoor walking spaces. I would say at least 50 to 60% of them do. Some with like very long trails, some with shorter ones, but there's this again of like being in creation, I think is also another draw to the younger generations. And why not on a site where there's also the Blessed Sacrament?
Yeah. It's like we all know it. Unplugging, silence, nature, and prayer are honestly, if I had a day like that, I feel like it'd be the most peaceful day ever. And so rarely do we actually do that. But going on a pilgrimage like this, as you guys have pointed out before, can be an opportunity for that.
um,
Yeah. So as you guys continue to build up Catholic Go, are there any, you guys sort of hinted in the app, are there any upcoming features or expansions that you guys can share with our audience?
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. The app is under development, and generally speaking, just facilitating the visits with different resources to make it easier for people to go to these places, make a day out of it. I joke, we have children, drag your children there. Whether there's ice cream nearby, and maybe even owned by a member of a local parish. So those are some of the features generally that we want to add in the near future.
We do have some plans with the anniversary of our country next year, the 250th anniversary, we are we do have some plans to kind of
Integrate the two.
yeah, yeah. So can't quite say too much on that yet, but it will be coming.
It's exciting. We'll be
Yeah.
looking out for that. Do you guys see Catholic Go expanding beyond the US?
Yeah, I think that is the dream. But we've tried to walk very very docility with the Lord in this, um and right now the focus has just been the US. So, and so I think we do have that dream of eventually being international, but this is definitely where we're meant to be right now.
Right.
And before we wrap up, I'm just sort of curious, what has been the biggest challenges, but also the biggest joy with building Catholic Go so far?
You already told the biggest challenge of time.
Time is the
Yeah.
challenge. Time is definitely the challenge. And keeping our priorities of God, marriage, and our children first, right? And all of this. So I would say time is our biggest challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, making time because I do work full time as well. Darcy really runs Catholic Go, and obviously we're in it together, but making it time for it after our priorities.
Yeah.
And but the joy is the encouragement that we've gotten, since everybody we've shared this idea with, from when it was in the idea stage to here it is, here's the website. As you said, I can't believe this hasn't been done before. And this is so needed, whether it is because you love to go on trips and pilgrimages or because there's a site that you love, like you said, that I just wish people knew about this. Um, I think there are a lot of different angles of why people are excited about this happening. That's been the greatest joy of knowing we're doing something that is going to serve a lot of the faithful and a lot of these sites themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And I know you guys, obviously, you're not charging people to access this and you're not charging sites to be listed on here. So, I mean, if someone's interested in supporting Catholic Go,
Yes.
is there anywhere they can go to donate, or is there anything monetarily people can do to keep Catholic Go expanding?
I'd like to email us again at hello@catholico.
Yeah, yeah. Partnerships, I think, are definitely
Partnerships.
available.
Yeah, partnerships are definitely available. That's what we're leveraging. We want to keep it free. We want to really keep it free because I think that's at least at this stage until it unfolds more, until we fully know, because we keep asking ourselves too, as users, I say like I wouldn't pay for this yet. Like it's great, but like I personally would not pay a monthly fee to have this map, right? So um it's good pulse checks, right? And so yes, we'd be open to any
Yeah, partnerships in all forms, either directly tied to particular regions or sites or generally the mission of Catholic Go. There are lots of creative ways that we can work with other organizations or businesses.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I love that. And, once again, eCatholic, we're a for-profit company. So it's, the subscriptions that parishes pay eCatholic that help keep the lights on and help us continue to build new features that will hopefully help parishes. So, again, I know you're sort of letting the spirit lead you. Um, but I can totally see Catholic Go really just going to the next level and the next level and the next level, but
Mhm.
understanding that does take investment of, as you guys pointed out, time, but also financially speaking as
Yes.
well.
Yeah, I think to your point, we're building this community in one way, both through the site itself and on social media, on Instagram, of followers and people who are enthusiastic about the mission. And that's what creates the value for those partnerships. But like you said, the different levels, there's lots of levels. Once Catholic Go is a platform that allows a lot of shrines and businesses to gain visibility, to audiences around the country and in particular locations.
Are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our audience?
Just engage, just like you said, engage, think creatively about how, your parish or your community or family can benefit from visiting these sites. What can you do for those sites, and share feedback with us and with Catholic Go and the sites individually, give testimonials to help them gain visibility. And just share your stories with us, because you just like today, the more we can share these stories, it just gives people a reason to get out there and visit these locations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also want to mention another thing that I just found fun about your site is I noticed like today you had featured St. Francis Xavier Cabrini's shrine in New York City right there on the homepage. And I think that's a great excuse to visit the site more often beyond just when you're planning to travel or looking for something in your local area. Is that homepage something that is being updated daily with a new kind of featured site to learn about?
Yes, yes, as daily as possible. Um, but yeah, we are trying to, if there's a, this is where we're trying to integrate some of this liturgical living, right?
Yes.
So, it was her feast day, and kind of extended it a little bit,
Sure.
but yeah, that is the goal, that we are trying to update this daily so that you can kind of see like, okay, where could I, make a spiritual pilgrimage today and go visit.
Right. And I think you make a great point of not only when you are seeking to visit someplace, but just out of curiosity, visit the site because it is rotating and learn something you didn't know about that saint or about a location that's on our site.
I love that. And once again, so for partners, for parishes, shrines, even if you have a little Catholic coffee shop that's part of your, Catholic community, hello at catholicgo.com is a good place to get in touch with you guys. Also, I know there's a submission form on the website, catholicgo.com. And that's how folks can get in touch with you. So
Mhm.
hopefully you guys get flooded with even more interesting sites, because I'd love to see Catholic Go continue to expand. And again, I just love that you guys are focusing on more than just the big common ones that we hear about all the time.
Yes,
Thank you guys so much for your time today. Good luck with Catholic Go, and we will definitely keep a pulse on it. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for having us.
Thanks. God bless.
God bless.